The Grow My Cleaning Company podcast helps owners of cleaning companies just like you to grow your company and yourself so you can make more money and finally get the time and money freedom that probably got you into this business. Discover how to automate and create systems that allow you to grow like crazy without losing control. If you dig the show and want to show some love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It really helps. Enjoy the show. Hey, Cleaning Nation, Mike Campion here with the irrepressible Suzanne Bandick. Today, we are going to talk about, something I would say is probably at the core of 70, 80% of what we find holding our people back, and that is fear. And that fear can look like a lot of things: fear of doing the wrong thing, fear of doing nothing, fear of success, fear of growing too fast, fear of looking bad in front of your family because you have money, fear of not being able to pay bills because you don't have money. Like, so many things come back to fear, and we talk about it so little when it's such a big deal. So that said, it was actually Suzanne's idea to do this, and I'm dying to see what she has, because she, I talk more tactical stuff and she talks more beliefs and mindset. So she's on the front lines with this stuff. So Suzanne, tell us, Cleaning Nation, kind of maybe start with the problem is what you see the people we work with, because I'm guessing many of Cleaning Nation feel that same way and might just need to hear like, oh my gosh, I'm in the right spot.
Well, let's just start with everybody. We all have fears. And what's really important right now is to not let the fear hold us back and to not let the fear derail our business. So let's face it, fear can stop us dead in our tracks, and that will make us not do what we know we need to do or not make the changes we need to make.
So how does that, because there's two parts to it. One is the experience of fear, which isn't pleasant, right? Like, I don't think anyone likes that fearful feeling. So that in and of itself isn't great. It'd be nice if we could eradicate or at least bring that down a bit. And then the second is our response to fear, which can be very different. Like, just be, fear in and of itself isn't, if you've got a tiger coming, fear is probably a good thing. But if you freeze, that can get you killed. And if you use that fear to take action, it might save your life. So the same thing goes with business. I think because we don't like it, we kind of try and look away from it or pretend it's not there, which isn't super helpful. So how can you identify other emotions that might be masquerading as fear, if you've seen that? And then once we identify kind of what's going on, how do you coach or find people to respond effectively to fear so it actually brings the fear brings a value as opposed to just suffering?
That's a brilliant question, because fear can masquerade as procrastination. Fear can masquerade as, I just simply need more information.
Here's what I'm going to give you. I'm going to think about it. But I don't know that anyone ever goes to their thinking chair and puts on their thinking jacket and picks up their thinking pipe and contemplates, actively really gives it a good think. I think it's mostly, I'm afraid to make a decision. So I will do what I think to be make no decision, which the sick part of that is that's a decision. And the decision is to keep doing what you've been doing before and hopefully get different results. So perfect. I love that procrastination, or we give it all these other names, because if someone gives you an option to do something different in your business, I think it's scary, paradoxically, to go, I'm afraid to make the wrong decision. That's just too naked and too vulnerable. So we won't say that. So we'll dress it up like, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to talk with my wife. I'm going to, I need more information. I want to get it right. I'm a perfectionist. We put all these beautiful, it's not that bad. I actually like cleaning. So taking massive action stuff, we just put all these other labels on it, which tell the fear to shut up. But the fears are really healthy. This is, without getting into medical, I get frustrated sometimes when, you're in pain and the doctors give you a pain reliever. And it's like, well, hold on. The pain's probably trying to tell you something's not right in your body. And I guess you could tell the pain to shut up. That's one way to go. Or we could try and figure out what's going on. So I think fear can be a pain that we can tell to shut up or dress it up like it's not that bad, but it doesn't typically go away. It just gets worse.
And I'll tell everyone one of the main reasons we have our fear. And then I'm going to tell you something that you can do that will help you out with that. One of the main reasons we have fear is because it's an unknown. The change is an unknown. Big thing I always deal with, I have to raise prices. The unknown is the fear, what if I lose all my clients? That's, you look at what you're doing now, but I'm working for free. I'm working and I'm not making any money. That's a reality, but the fear is so strong. But what if I lose these clients? What if my life is messed up? That we don't make the move.
That reminds me of a story that ties in, not a story, but an illustration that ties in so well to this. The CEO wants to spend a bunch of money training his employees, and the CFO says, well, what if I train them and they all quit? Or what if we spend all this money and they quit? And the CEO says, what if we don't train them and they stay? So pretty good question, by the way. I think that's exactly it with what if I raise all my prices and they all quit? Well, what if I don't raise my prices and they stay? I keep having to work for free. And I think, Suzanne, you tell me if I'm overstating. Again, I want everyone to see the levels of these fears. So we go, oh my gosh, I do that. And next time you do it, you can kind of recognize it and have some tools that Suzanne's going to give you on how to combat it. But we won't just say, I'm too scared to have an adult conversation with my clients because I'm a big sissy. I rarely do our clients come to us that. So they might say things like, well, you don't understand. Suzanne's been with me for 10 years. Like somehow that has something to do with like, yeah, so she probably knows there should have been a price raise 5 years ago or 8 years ago. What is that at? Well, Suzanne's old and she's so sweet. Like somehow we embed in that raising price, and this is just raising prices, but this fear could go about anything with your business. We make up these assumptions. They're just baked in. Well, Suzanne's with me since the beginning. It's like baked into that is the bullcrap non-truth of, so therefore I'm somehow misloyal. Like she's been loyal to me. And if I raise prices on her ever till the end of time, regardless of how poorly I priced in the beginning, I'm now disloyal. Not the truth. Suzanne, she's on a fixed income, so she can't, whatever. Again, somehow that means I'm responsible to provide free cleaning to everybody at any income regard. Like there's just a lot of non-truths. Or Suzanne, and we'll just look for anything, even as nonsensical as Suzanne referred me to other clients, and they'll be, it's like none of this has to do with anything. So we make up a bunch of other things. And then the second to avoid having to take action. And the second thing is, I think we still, even when we go fine, I'm afraid, and Suzanne, I think you got closer, but I think there's one more level deeper, much closer, more honest is, I'm afraid if I raise prices, they're all going to quit. I think below that we really never talk about, like, please don't say it out loud, Mike, is I'll look stupid. I'll be a failure. They'll be angry with me. Like they
won't like me.
There's the one right there. They won't like me. So I'm dying to hear your feedback on how to respond to the fear, but I want to make sure that everybody out there gets really naming it and understanding it. Like when I do an initial coaching call with someone, we spend so much time getting clear on the problem and they want to get right to solving it. So I'm like, tell me how this is affecting your day-to-day. What is this costing you? Why is this such a big deal? Well, you don't understand. It hurts. They don't want to deal with it, right? So I'm like the doctor kind of pushing where it hurts, and I go, but I'm really strong and I sleep really good and my sex drive is high. And they like come up with all these other things that I'm like, I understand, but you have a tumor in the middle of your belly, dude. They don't want to talk about that. So what's a healthy amount of bottom to get to in fear, right? Because if we just live in fear, well, it'll cripple us. If that's all we think of and focus on, of course, not healthy. But I think the other one is to pretend it's not there, band-aid it, say it's okay. It's not really a big thing. That tiger's not really there. I'm terrified. If I really think about he might eat me, that's terrifying. So I'll just tell myself a bunch of lies how he won't. That's not okay. And then sitting there and being paralyzed, looking at the tiger, not okay. How do we get to the bottom of it healthily? And then how do we move on without over-focusing or saying, it's okay, the tiger probably won't bite me? Big question, but you're a smart lady. That's why I bring Suzanne on, because I'm like, I can ask her whatever and she'll come up with a phenomenal, genius answer. It's my favorite. She's a great guest.
Thank you, Mike. All right. First thing, we all need to understand that we all have these moments of fear. Even people that we admire, that we think they've got it all together, they've got multi-million-dollar businesses, the most successful lives imaginable. Everyone deals with the fear. But what if we always err to the negative? Somehow, what if I lose everything instead of what if I gain everything? It's an awareness.
Let me prove Suzanne's point for some of you out there. Like, that's not the truth. Okay. I was in a small group, I don't know, a couple dozen people, maybe more, but less than 100, with Mark Cuban speaking before he'd become like big on Shark Tank, but after he'd sold his first company, Yahoo, for like $1 billion or something. And he said he still kept, so he was a literal billionaire, still kept a trade magazine or two on his nightstand. In the back of his mind was, if everything goes to pot, I can still get a job making $82,000 a year as an engineer. Literal billionaire, not a conscious feeling. And well, actually, he verbalized it, so it was conscious to that degree. But even there, after he was liquid, billionaire, still I can make $82,000 a year being, you still have the tech magazines for that very same reason. So couldn't agree with you more, Suzanne. And I can't think of a more personal example of a literal billionaire going, what if? Please continue.
Exactly. So it's important to acknowledge the fear, because if we recognize, wait a minute, I'm procrastinating, I'm stuck in analysis paralysis, I'm trying to say I need more information, I'm not moving forward. It's important that we recognize, wait a minute, why am I creating all these things? Why am I not moving forward? What am I potentially afraid of? It's really important to take note of that. So for instance, when we were living in caveman days, maybe we were afraid to leave.
How old do you think I am, Suzanne? Goodness gracious, keep it to yourself. Maybe you.
In the history of humanity, Mike.
Oh, that changes things. Okay.
In the history of humanity, we were afraid to leave the cave because there could be a tiger out there that could eat us. Now we maybe don't have to be afraid to leave our houses because a tiger might eat us, but we could be afraid to make decisions in our business because something might happen. And what I would really like to encourage everybody to go back to is, when you started your business, there were no guarantees. When you started your business, the potential thought could be, what if I fail? But you made the decision to start a business, correct? Mike's nodding yes.
Yeah, that's my, I didn't want to interrupt because your flow is so good, but absolutely.
Yeah. So we made a decision to move forward in our business. Now the next decision is, well, my goodness, I need to grow my business. I need to expand my business so it's good for my lifestyle. So I'm making money. So at that point, we say, well, now I've got a new fear. I have to make a change. I have to do a price increase. I need to invest in something that costs a lot of money. That's a fear. But what if all the same fears come back? But what if I fail? What if I spend the money and I lose it? What if I lose all my customers? What if we're back in the negative spiral of thinking? Again, I point out it's because it's an unknown. So here's my suggestion. Let's make the unknown known. And this is where I encourage everybody to write down the positives of the change. Boom.
Real quick, Cleaning Nation, if you can think about how you found out about this podcast, maybe a tweet, a Facebook message, iTunes search, some sort of Instagram post, the only way we grow is word of mouth. We don't do paid ads. We don't run ads. You are it. The only ask I have is, if you're getting value, share the love. However you found out about this, if it's a review or post, whatever it is, do that. Pay it forward so the next cleaning company owner can change their life as well. Back to the show. So a couple of things I want to add in. One, the simplest way I can think of is just tell yourself the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help you God. Because I think we make up things to protect ourselves from doing hard things. But then the real hard thing is not getting the life that we want. So we will pay the ultimate price of not having the business that we want, because we want to pay the temporary price of really having a hard conversation. And as you're giving these examples, Suzanne, I'm starting to think a lot more of it has to do with looking okay in front of your friends than anything. Like, because you mentioned spending money, and I'm like, people are only afraid to spend money in their business in certain things. Like, obviously we do coaching and it's expensive, and people really have a lot of heartburn with that. They'll say things like, I know I got to spend money to make money. But then when it comes to investing in their own selves, which to me is like, well, goodness gracious, as an owner, that's the, like with the old CEO saying we got to invest in our people. That's our people, for crying out loud. If we're not going to invest in ourselves, what are we even doing here? But when it comes to, I bought a van with a wrap and a bunch of equipment that frankly, I don't have any customers for and don't know how to get customers for. We're super okay with that. So I think it really has to do with being judged by other people. Like when we got to what if all my customers leave? I really think we're more afraid of what you said, Suzanne. What if they don't like me? And when it's investing in coaching, well, what if my parents or other people think I'm stupid? Or when it's doing a website that's effective and converts, but doesn't look super fancy. Well, what if my friends like we're so worried about what other people think? And I see so many things that tie to that. Like we'll step out of our comfort zone if it's kind of like socially acceptable. But if we think we're going to get judged by other people, then we're a lot less likely to do it. And the paradox or the problem with that is the people that we're allowing to judge us don't have multi-million-dollar businesses. And the people that did have multi-million-dollar businesses wouldn't judge us for the thing that we're getting nervous about doing. So I'm just, as we're having this conversation, Suzanne, I'm really getting to like just understanding your own, what the real freaking fear is, not the superficial thing, not the let me say it's going to be okay, but the real fear. And it's embarrassing to go, is it that possible that I didn't do what it took to build $1 million business because I was afraid I'd be embarrassed in front of my friends or family? And we're like, I can't, that's too embarrassing of a thought. So we say no, and then we never get the lesson. So Again, any thoughts on how to quickly get to the bottom and get clear? And then how do we move forward I'm guessing it's almost easy. Once you understand the fear, it's almost easy to go through it. So maybe 80% of the problem is getting clear on what our real fear is. Any thoughts on any of that I said?
Well, a brilliant idea could be to just write it down. All right. So we've already discussed we're not moving forward. We're inventing reasons. We're saying we have valid reasons. So one, look at, are my reasons really valid? Write down what I'm fearing and ask, is this my real fear or does it go deeper?
And I would also, even the valid, I'm getting so, this is such a cool thing we haven't talked about before, Suzanne. Valid to whom? When it comes to valid, I think the standard is friends and family. If I tell my wife, my brother-in-law, my friend from high school, is he going to say that's stupid? And I've heard so many people cleaning toilets because I talked to a guy who said employees are the worst and they'll steal stuff. And he had a guy that quit on the thing, and so that story becomes valid to them. So when you go, is that story valid? It's got to be in light of your real life goal, and you got to be honest about your goal. So, sometimes we won't even say the goal because we're afraid, like, I really want to make $10,000 a month or $100,000 a month or whatever the case may be, but I've tried before and I failed. So I don't want to say it out loud. Or I really want to get out of cleaning, but I'm afraid employees will think again, comes right back to people think I'm stupid. Employees look at me and go, are you kidding? Why would I work for you, you loser? I would never. And we have that fear, and again, I think we really think that or fear it, like even if we don't verbalize it as clearly as I have. So even when saying, is this a valid fear? We still have to put it in context of what? If it's in context with getting along with your fellow humans, if that's priority one, quit being an entrepreneur because you got to ruffle feathers. Like you are going to say and do things that are uncomfortable and unpopular. There's no path to success where everybody likes you, period. The only way to have everybody like you is never do anything. So you kind of got to pick, like, do I want to be liked by the other human? And again, is it important to be liked? I'm not saying no one will ever like you. No, of course not. But you got to be willing to say, am I willing to have this difficult conversation with this employee, customer, potential customer, former employee, whatever the case may be, for the good of the whole? And if the answer is no, totally fine. Maybe entrepreneurship's not for you. So even when asking, is this a valid fear? The definition being, is it relates to getting to my goal, not as it relates to being uncomfortable. Because if the goal is to be comfortable, please get a job. If the goal is to build $1 million business, please be wildly willing to get out in the fear and the scary spot and stay there until you reach your goal, because that's really the cost.
Bottom line, maybe this will help, is our identity. Do we have the identity of a business owner? If we run all of our decisions through the identity of being a business owner, it will change our outcome.
Guys, gals, please write that down. If we could have just written that, as we could have done the podcast in 2 minutes. We call Suzanne a mindset coach. I don't like that term because it has a bunch of weird, squishy connotations. She's an identity shifter. Really, that's why the value. I mean, she brings lots of value as a friend and a human, but as what we specifically pay her to do on this, for our clients, is just to shift identity, and shifting identity is just beliefs. So that's exactly right. At the end of the day, I just talked to a gal who's so sweet, and she's making like $1,000 a month in profit, still cleaning toilets. She's been doing it 5 years. She doesn't know she can make payroll a lot. It's a mess. And I said, what's your goal? And she's like, oh my gosh, if I can make $2,000 a month, then I would be. And she has 3 kids, and that is not enough. And not the only difference, but the first difference that nothing's going to happen until it changes. If I weren't her, she's like, oh my gosh, if I don't have this up to 10 grand in 2 or 3 months, then, or I'll give it 6. This is a complete failure. And her identity was, oh my gosh, if I can make $2,000, my life would be great. So just that identity of, I'm a poor person who doesn't deserve wealth or doesn't deserve success or no one, or for whatever beliefs are under that. So yeah, I really think that identity is it. And you've got to your identity has to match your goal, or all the tactics in the world aren't going to help. What do you think, Suzanne?
I think that's bang on. It's brilliant, Mike. Your own advice is brilliant.
I agree with me.
I talk about that so often with our clients. Listen to the recording. You'll hear your own brilliant voice telling you the answers that you need.
Yeah, the best coaching is when people come to me or Suzanne and go, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say blah, 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 blah. And you're like, what do you think about it? I think it's the right thing to do. All righty then. There we go. Okay. That'll be money, please.
Identity. And let's go back to identity. That's so key. You make decisions as a business owner. That means you can be friends and have family that may not identify with business decisions, being a business owner. It's important that you keep those relationships for your recreation and you discuss and do things there. But when it comes to business, think about who you want to model. Who are your role models in business? And think about what they would do and how they would do it.
That's such a good point. And to tie a bow in this whole fear thing, I think if we get clear, rarely do we fear there's a physical tiger going to eat us. I think that was part of what was so devastating about COVID. There was just this airborne thing we couldn't see that was out there in the world to get us. And it's like, how do you even, we kind of became a bunch of superstitious natives about, how to deal with this thing. Because it was scary. So, and it's so funny. I responded differently than I think a lot of people to that, not because I'm right or wrong, but my identity was different. So it came right back down to my identity of for me, freedom and the ability to do stuff and still being a good community member, not hurting others. If I got that straight, you could just about guess how I responded to COVID. So if I tried to fix my response to COVID without fixing my identity, worthless. If you try to fix your fear without updating your identity, you're going to be stuck. So it's such a perfect thing. If you have fears, I love what Suzanne said. It was just a very classy way of saying, change your identity. So how would Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Suzanne Bandick, whoever you look up to and is living the life that you want, in the way that you
Campion.
Want, I would never go so far. How would they respond to this? You're really saying, can I try on their identity for a minute? And, maybe my trainer's in perfect physical shape and he knows how to get me to add some muscle and lose some body fat, but I may not listen to him on hiring and building a culture, and vice versa, right? He might, have some interest in my thoughts on how to build his business. So that's such a clean way of putting it. Really, if you want to deal with fear, you've got to upgrade your identity and deal with it the way that the person that's going to get the results that you want would deal with it. And that allows you to look at the fear right in the eyeballs. And again, when we talk about the perfect example is getting out of cleaning, some Yahoo's like, I've had an employee and they suck and everything sucks because they couldn't do it. And if you do it, that makes them feel bad because their identity is all wrapped up in that. And as soon as you accept that identity of poor, broken down business owner who's just going to get taken advantage of, the whole thing's done. We can give you the systems and process is going to be worthless. But once you have an identity of what would, Elon Musk do like this. He wouldn't even be, this is such a small problem that wouldn't even cross his radar. Like, okay, well, why don't I try on that identity? So I think, to sum up, you've got to be clear and honest with yourself. And if you want to get over your fears, look at the identity you've got. And if that's not getting you where you want to go, try an identity that you think will get you where you want to go. And I'll bet you that identity will look at those fears very, very differently. Any genius to add before we wrap it, lady?
I just want to add in that I guarantee, even with your new business owner identity, you'll be just as nice as you always have been.
That's such a Suzanne comment. So true. Well said, sister. All right. Love having Suzanne on. There's always a little slice of heaven. All right, guys, gals, if you want more of beliefs, identities, tactics, what to do, how to do it, who to believe, what to believe, how to believe it, growmycleaningcompany.com. Over 900 free. We're going to hit 1,000 here pretty quick. Over 900 episodes, tons and tons of value. Join us on Facebook. We're on Instagram, TikTok, blah, blah, blah. growmycleaningcompany.com. Check it out. See you around. Well, here we are, the end of the podcast, and you made it. Great job. I've got a little bonus for you for sticking through with me. But like I mentioned before, if you got value out of this podcast and you want to show a little love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever the heck you're listening to this thing. Share it with a friend. Share the love. And as a special thank you for those of you that stuck with me to the end, how about I give you my personal phone number so we can text? It's a great way for me to get to know you, your business, your goals personally. So shoot me a text now, 602-932-6431, 602-932-6431. I am the only one who responds to these texts, and I will personally respond to everyone I possibly can as long as this number is manned. Don't know how long we're going to keep this at the end of the podcast, so grab it now, 602-932-6431. Give me a text, say hey, can't wait to meet you.